Hello everyone, my name is Megan Lavoda and I'm an ENFJ, and today I'm going to be answering a question from Sruti, who asked me if I could continue on talking about, for example, I did a video about how NPs use SI, and she asked me if I could continue that series, sort of. And so today I'm going to be talking about how do FJs use TI. So if you guys have a question that you would like me to answer, I'm going to be trying to engage more with your guys' comments, and I will be answering one of your questions once a week. So please comment below if you have a question that you would like me to get to. And I have like a Google Doc with all the questions, and I'm going to just continue compiling them and then do the ones when I feel inspired to do them. So thank you Sruti, for asking this question. And for all of your comments. I appreciate it so much. But anyway, so the question, how do FJs use TI? So before I get into this, I'm definitely going to link my NPs using SI video if you guys haven't seen it and you're curious. But before I get into this, it should be clear that FJs refers to ENFJ, ESFJ, ISFJ, and INFJ. And INFJs and ISFJs have their TI in the third position, the tertiary function. And ENFJs and ESFJs have it in the fourth position, which is the inferior function. So I'm going to be combining sort of my knowledge with socionics and Myers-Briggs and answering this question, which is kind of ironic and meta because the way that my TI worked to even come to these conclusions is what I'm going to be sort of talking about with you guys today. Personally, I believe that the systems are just two ways of describing the same exact phenomenon, so sometimes I use those terms interchangeably. So if you're new to my channel, that's why like some of that could be confusing. So I guess what I was going to try and say is that it's going to be slightly different if your TI is in the tertiary position or the inferior position. But what I'm going to be really zoning in on in this video is how TI works whenever it is a servant to FE versus how it works whenever FE is a servant to TI. So that's something that I really look for when I'm typing people and when I just am observing human behavior. I want to know like what is influencing what, and I look at the way that the different things interact. So strong TI users, TPs, they're going to be very focused on accuracy and consistency. And so when they are observing the world and they're listening to people, they are seeking consistency. So that's why TPs can sort of be that know-it-all type to correct you in the middle of what you're talking about, or, you know, ask you like a lot of questions. They could be very incessant because they want their minds to be consistent, and they want other people around them to sound consistent too. The thing with FJs is that we have that TI going on in the background, but we don't feel the need to share every single thought we have, and we also don't even always identify every thought that we have. And so this can make us seem less consistent because we are not focused on making sure everything we say sounds consistent. For example, you can look at what I just said. This is going to be weird because we're using me as an example, or you could use me as an example. Sometimes I say tertiary function. Sometimes I say third function. Sometimes when I'm talking about the point of least resistance in socionics, sometimes I say polar, sometimes I say blind spot. I'm not very consistent in my speech. What I care most about is making sure that I'm understood and making sure I'm connecting with the person listening. So the consistency thing, not as focused on it. If the person gets what I mean, then I can pretty much move on. I don't need to lay it all out in a very consistent manner. That's not to say that FJs, that our brains aren't consistent. When I say brains, I mean like we all interact with logic in some way, shape, or form. But the way that FJs interact with logic is, more subconscious and underneath the layer of FE. So how am I going to put this? It's funny, as I'm saying this right now, sorry, I keep being like inspired by my own thinking, which is very meta and like weird. I oftentimes will stop to pause and like think, because it's a struggle to try and translate what I mean or what I think into words that are going to sound super consistent and super on point with what I think. My thoughts are deep, because TI is introverted thinking, and so it is depth of logic versus breadth. I'm not very quick when it comes to just gleaning facts from the external world the way that TE does. I'm not quick in regards to getting the gist of how a system works and executing things quickly the way that TE can be. But I do make sure that when I'm thinking, that everything is connected, and I want to make sure there's no cognitive dissonance, and I want to know exactly what I'm talking about. I want it all to go together and make sense in my head. Like clarity is super, super important, and consistency is super important to me consistently, but it's not something that I'm going to be extroverting out to you all the time the way that a TP would. Gosh, what was I saying? Oh, but I think because the logic is subconscious, as what you're seeing right now, like there's sort of this this buffer when it comes from getting my thoughts out. And so that can make me kind of slow sounding. I mean, I know a lot of ENTPs in particular have commented on some of my videos saying like, spit it out, get to the point, like things like that. They want me to just get to the point. But there is this sort of delay when it comes to accessing what I think. I still operate off of that same linear TI system that a TP would. I'm just not going to be accessing it consciously all the time, because I don't really need to. It only exists to serve my FE purpose. TI and FE go hand in hand. I've said this in other videos before, but you kind of I like to think of them as, two opposite sides to a coin. So it's perfectly okay to be an FJ and it's perfectly okay to be a TP, but the way that we favor one over the other sort of can compensate for the lack of that thing. So because my FE is so good, I'm able to predict human behavior, because my head is so focused on human nature. Why are people doing what they're doing? Like tracking like these sort of emotional patterns. I am so busy doing that I don't need to be checking for logical consistency. Something that comes to mind is there are, I don't remember the name of this YouTuber, but there are several like YouTube accounts that I've seen before where people are like looking for tells or like emotional micro expression There's this one YouTuber in particular I remember did this like analysis of Shane Dawson after he was accused of being a pedophile. They did this analysis of him, and they were like, oh, he did this thing and then this thing and this thing, and then psychologically that shows that he's probably telling the truth. Like there's this whole like system that this girl was using to analyze the behavior, and that just was mind-blowing to me, because all you have to do is look at the behavior and you can see for yourself. I don't really understand sometimes the need for there to be this system that you're putting the behavior up against, because I think that the behavior can speak for itself. Like I can tell, I would say I'm pretty good at telling if someone's lying, because if you connect with the FE, then it speaks for itself. And I think that FE and TE both speak for itself in certain ways. They are self-evident. They are obvious. And so, but TPs will oftentimes gravitate to sort of systems in order to help them analyze human behavior. But I think it's important to remember that FJs don't need to do that, because we already understand and are focused on human behavior. So, and you know, TPs don't need to focus as much on FE for their own reasons as well. Like it's all just a natural balance in the universe, I believe. But anyway, for me, when I access my TI, it takes me absolutely forever to figure out what I think about something. And I realize that I think less than a TP would. And so when I do think something, it can be very passionate and strong and unwavering. And part of that's, you know, because we're J's, can sort of connect to that. But so few things make it through the full process of being ruminated on, that when something does click, it clicks. Because I think FJs, we're so focused on human behavior, we'll be like, why is there war? Why do people not like each other? Why do people bully each other? Why this? Why that? Like, how do I get what I want? How can people be happy? How can we change situations to the better? Like, how can we be more positive? We're so focused on sort of this conclusion, because both FE and TE are ways of making a conclusion. The same way that TJs are trying to execute a certain outcome, we are focused on a problem. Why is there war? Why is there bullying in schools? We're focused on that, and it is very be very vague. But it's TI that brings this specifics to that vagueness. And you know, with TJs, their FI values are what bring the specifics to, like, why they're trying to have that that outcome. So we're always focused on this outcome, and our TI is what we use as a tool to get the outcome. So, for example, I enjoy making videos like this. It makes me happy, and I've apparently makes some of you guys happy too. And so whenever I use my TI, here's an example, is like, I'm like, okay, I want to be able to make videos. I enjoy doing them and people enjoy watching them. Great. There's some sort of FE mutual benefit going on. Sorry, I'm having trouble finding the right words today, which is again an FJ thing, sort of. It's like, great, I want to do this. This is the outcome I want, is I want to be able to make people happy and be happy. Cool. TI is the what we use to try and find a process that works, that would make that outcome happen. So we are not trying to make everything a process just for the sake of it being a process. We are coming up with a process to help us reach an outcome. So TPs are going to be having processes to help them understand and judge the outer world with FE. We already see the world with FE. We already have we already know what outcome we want. We already understand the behavior going on. We just want to solve it. And so TI is what we do to solve it. Hopefully that makes sense. It's like, I sometimes see TPs as trying to make sense of the world. And FJs are like, I see the problems of the world. What do we do about it? So it's very much, what do I do about it? And like a way that I've had to use TI is to figure out how to structure some sort of business or some sort of offering so that I am actually able to answer all of your questions. And that has been hard for me. Like even like with this video, I get several questions a day and I want to be able to answer all of them. And then whenever I try to solve the problem by charging, I got less questions. And so I'm like, okay, how can I make it so that I can answer as many questions as possible and also not be super expensive? Or like, how can I make it so that it's still worth my time and so that I can still eat and like do a good job at work and like all these things? Like, those are the sort of problems that an FJ will try and solve, because it's like, I want to make these people happy. I want to make me happy. I want to make these people happy. These are all the people I'm trying to make happy. How do I do that? And that's where the TI comes in. Our brain will just turn on and not stop when we're trying to solve a problem in regards to there being some sort of outcome that involves people. And another reason why it could be hard for us to come to a conclusion, it's almost like I'm observing the behavior of people, and I sort of group people in my head. Like even before I knew Myers-Briggs, I would group people based on groupings of behavior, like sort of clusters. And I think that's what FE does, and that's sort of what Myers-Briggs does. It's like, oh, there's more extroverted and then there's more introverted. Like I already group people based on these sorts of clusters. You'll hear a lot of FJs will say things like, oh, there's two types of people in this world, people who do this and people who do this. We are always focused on organizing the types of people and why that is. And something I always enjoy with talking with other FE users about will be things like, this is why, I enjoy things like trying to come up with a target market and creating like buyer personas, like for marketing. And also, like, if we were to talk about, I like joking about things like, like imagining the life of the type of person that would wear a certain outfit, or like, that's just an example. I can't think of a specific example. Like, I'm thinking of like the sorts of things that me and my ESFJ sister will joke about. And we'll say, oh, that reminds me of blah, blah, blah. Like if we were to see like an outfit or whatever, like we like to sort of make jokes lumping people together, which I think can annoy some people. And I think a lot of FJs think stereotypes are like funny, or that there's some truth in it. Me and my girlfriend, who's an INFJ, will joke about, I really want there to be like a bisexual culture. And so I'll like notice things like, oh, is this bi culture? Is this bi culture? Because I'm like, my FE is focused on those things, and I sort of exaggerate it like as a joke. I don't know if that really makes sense, but I'm trying to get you guys to understand the way that FJs are literally so focused on categorizing people all the time. All the time. And we will often see these sort of problems in society where it's like, oh, well, these people are super religious and these people are super against religion. What do they have in common? How can we help them see eye to eye? Or what is the reason why people think differently? And I also want you guys to understand that FE, FI, TI, and TE are all rational judging functions. They're all rational processes in our brain. Or actually, no, I'm pretty sure, sorry, forget I said that. FI and TI are not considered rational because FE and TE are left brain and FI and TI are right brain. But anyway, they are, so FE is a rational decision-making process. But what I was trying to say is that the four judging functions are all ways of judging the reality around you. So as a judging Dom, as an ENFJ, my mind is racing at all times. I might not be using logic in the way that a thinker might recognize, but that doesn't mean that my brain is not doing things super active at all times, even as an extrovert. Like, because I'm still thinking all day long about, why did those people do this? Why did those people do this? And trying to sort of understand why people do things the way they do. But when we are using TI, it's like we are getting all of this feedback from why people are the way they are, and it funnels through this process until it comes out with a thought. So we have all of this, it's like FE information that then goes down a funnel. We filter it through our brains, everything. We want to know everything. It's FE is the breadth of human experience. We are going to observe these people intensely, these people intensely, these people. We have all this information, so we have a lot to organize. So we're not very sure of ourselves because we have a lot to organize. And TPs have a little bit less to organize, but then they come to more solid conclusions. It takes us a long time to come to solid conclusions because I can't just sit here and say, this religion is the best religion ever or something, without also thinking about, well, these group of people think blah, blah, blah. And so, and it's not NE, I'm not talking about NE taking in all of these possibilities. I'm just talking about the different social conclusions that people could have. And if an FJ does stand for something, then they know exactly why they are against the other thing. They have to at least consider why another group of people might be against them, and then they're going to have to come up with a reason why they don't agree. So, and we want to know where we stand on certain things. And if we don't know, we'll be confused by it and be like, I don't know why that is. But so it takes a long time to get to a conclusion, and then the conclusions that we do have can be kind of shaky because we are going to want to connect with and consider every point of view. And whenever I'm looking for different points, or whenever I'm looking at other people's points of view, I'm not ever accepting anything that they say as fact. I'm listening to it and trying to connect with them, and then asking myself to find the grain of truth in that. Like, TI looks for these universal grains of truth, and it's like, why do you think that's true? That's what I'm trying to extract when I'm listening to people. Why do you think that's true, and what true thing caused that belief? I don't care if people are being 100% accurate. I can still empathize with why they think that. Because there are always valid reasons why people believe things, even if it's not accurate. And that's what I'm always searching for when I'm listening to people. Why do you think that? And why do you think that is a super interesting question for me. That's why I do enjoy, I enjoy watching documentaries. I even enjoy watching reality TV show, because you can see things in watching reality TV and understand human behavior. Like, why do people react that way? Why do people react that way? That's what I'm always thinking about. And I think FE sort of gets a joy from predicting things, even if the reality show is like completely wrong or stupid or made up. We want to be able to predict, like, oh, if you do that, then what's the social reaction that's going to come from that? So our TI really is there to solve the problems that we see as very evident in humanity. And the more you are looking at that feedback, the more you're taking in the emotional information about how people work, the more you're going to find that there is not really a simple answer. And that's why FJs take forever to have a conclusion, because we know it's not that simple. And I'm not saying that TPs think it's simple, but these tools are being used in a completely different way for completely different reasons. And so the reason why we are using the tool is different, and so that's going to shape how we use it, or that's going to shape like the way we use it. I tend to be someone that believes that there's always a reason why for things, and partially that includes my NI, but I still think that all FJs would relate to that to some extent. Like, there's always a reason. Like, what is the reason for this? Like, that's, we see the outcome, and then we're like, well, what is the reason for that? And that's where we dive into the TI to support or to make sense of what we see happening in the FE, and to solve problems in the FE to move society forward. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have a question and you would like me to address your question in a video for next week. Or if you'd like to work with me one-on-one, I have those links below. I also have a Facebook group, Personality Typology for Self-Growth. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm sorry that it was rambly. Hopefully you can sort of watch this video and even take a sort of a step back and look at the way that I'm talking, and look at the way that I'm trying to access TI, and come to your own conclusions. If you have come to an interesting conclusion about the way that I'm using TI and how I'm trying to use it to you, I would love to hear that, because this entire YouTube channel has been a journey in me trying to discover my TI and sort of having the courage to share it. And, you know, I'm not really like this in any other aspect of life. Like, you guys really are seeing my true blue TI, like, and that's why my videos can be so long and rambly, because it can be so hard for me to access. But I think that I come to the most truth when I let myself ramble or whatever. If I were to just sit down and make a list, then I think it would lose some of the passion. And, you know, I get a lot of comments of people telling me to try and think before you talk more, or like, you know, make a list and then like sort of be quick about it. I think I'd lose a little bit of who I was if I did that. I mean, I want to do that more. I do, but I feel like it's my FE that's trying to connect with you and really show you my thought process. And that's one of the main drivers of when I'm doing this. I mean, it should feel like a conversation. It should feel like I'm sitting down talking to you, because that's like my goal. Like, I'm not trying to teach you. I'm not trying to educate you. I trust that you guys are smart enough people that you can go find the information yourself the same way I did. But what this is it's a conversation, and that's TI in an FJ is going to be supporting the conversation. But my main goal is really to be using FE and communicating who I am and where I'm coming from. The TI is just going to be secondary to that. So thank you for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.